Vampire Survivors is a game you might have heard of, and if you haven't, I'm going to tell you all about it today. This is a game that was popular, at the beginning of the year. I actually meant to make this video for like 2 months ago, but the news is pretty dead today, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to kind of spotlight an indie gem, as it were. At first glance, this game probably doesn't look like much, but if you rewind back to January, it managed to hit 50,000 concurrent players on Steam, landing it among the top 20 most played games on Steam for the month of January. So with this video, I hope to explain why so many people have been enjoying it and give a little context around the game's development. This game is $3 on Steam and it's in early access right now, but let me get into it and tell you why I think this game is actually pretty cool. For starters, when you fire the game up, it kind of just looks like this, but by the time you finish a round, it actually looks more like this. Vampire Survivors essentially borrows characters and weapons from Castlevania and puts them in a twin-stick shooter, except there's no right stick. Your character attacks automatically at set intervals. You move around with arrow keys or WASD to defeat enemies and then pick up experience gems to level up. It's pretty simple. Now, each time you do level up, you get a chance to acquire a new ability or upgrade one you already have. As you progress, more difficult enemies spawn and things can get pretty chaotic. There's a roguelike element here where you unlock new characters with different stats and abilities, as well as new passive abilities and weapons as you go. But it mostly plays like Geometry Wars, or I Made a Game with Zombies in it, if you remember either of those. However, the progression system and the abilities remind me a lot more of how you stack abilities up in Hades. You're not going through levels or dungeons here. All you're trying to do is survive. The longest a round can last is 30 minutes, and while for me, I like the retro aesthetic, I think this game looks pretty awesome, but if it's kind of a turnoff for you, I think the thing to remember is that Vampire Survivors is essentially all about mechanics and progression. And it's pretty dang good at those two things. I've also heard people describe this game as an idler, but obviously the longer you play, the more attention it requires. To add some context to how addicting Vampire Survivors is, I've already put in probably 10 hours into this game. I know there's a lot of other people who have put in a similar amount, if not more time than that. It's just kind of a fun, very simple, easy game to kind of just sit down and play for 20, 30 minutes at a time. Even 3 months later, after this game was being talked about on like every video game podcast and kept seeing it being brought up on different websites, it's still, a top 50 Steam game. It's really impressive. Vampire Survivors was made by one person, Luca Galante, and Vice actually did a pretty good profile on how the game came to be. Galante was a programmer and admin for a private Ultima Online server and would work on making games in his spare time. When Galante published this game in December, it basically had 20 concurrent players at most throughout the month, but then Spottercat Gaming on YouTube picked it up, shortly after Wonderbot on Twitch, and then Northern Lion back on YouTube. Looking at the Steam chart now, the game only has about 16,000 players playing it, but when I checked it earlier today, it had about 25,000, so that, immediately would jump it up into that top 30,000 area, top 40,000 game on Steam, as in terms of concurrent players. And again, it's very simplistic in concept. It's kind of a very simple and reductive game, but on its good days, it's beating out Civ 6 and Rainbow Six Siege, in terms of concurrent players on Steam, which is kind of an achievement. It's pretty cool. So Steam Charts isn't perfect, but if you look at the game's profile, you can see kind of the history of this game, where in December, Steam Charts has it down here as 12 players at its peak, but then in January, the peak was 50,000, right? And that just takes it right up to the top of the Steam Charts. According to this, that's a 261,000% increase in the player base. Then you can see in February, it had another jump, a little bit more manageable, this time at a mere 261% increase in the concurrent players, with 77,000 being the peak. And now we're starting to normalize out as we get through March here at, negative 27%, but that's still a peak of 58,000 players at some point. That's with Elden Ring coming out, that's with Horizon Forbidden West coming out, and all these other good games that came out during this time, and that continue to consume people's lives. So it's quite a strong, sturdy little game at $3 on Steam as an early access thing, and I definitely recommend just checking it out. I mean, the barrier to entry is pretty low. In the interview for the Vice piece, Galante was completely shocked by the game catching on, and it looks like they have some big plans for the future, saying, "I always wanted to start my own studio, so this is giving me the opportunity to do that. For now, I haven't been sleeping much due to the unexpected pressure of admin support and bug fixing that presented itself, on top of having a day job and pre-existing content release schedule for the game, but it's all worth it. As things settle, that new studio becomes more and more a reality." And yeah, it seems like a great success story. You can see that Galante has been updating the game pretty regularly, just posted a new content update a couple days ago. There was also a development roadmap, like kind of an overview posted of where the game aims to be for a version 1.0. In the post, they wrote, "Thanks to the overwhelming success and support from the players, new content has started to come out at a much faster pace than anticipated, and the roadmap has also been expanded significantly. The amount of playable characters planned for version 1.0 of the game has been doubled, and so has the number of stages with the introduction of bonus challenge ones. A dozen new weapons have been designed and a handful of new power-ups thrown into the mix." And you can see how much progress they've made. You know, they plan to have 24 characters, 48 weapons, 20 power-ups, 5 normal stages and 5 special stages, and then of course where everything is listed out, you can see just how much progress they've made on all of that. And they say it's about 70% content complete. It's kind of this incredible success story for just a small game. Super cool to see. Always fun to hear about an underdog story. It seems like Galante's now teamed up with a bunch of different people, you know, between freelancers to port the game to other platforms and versions to make the game also run better on Steam and wherever else, like Steam Deck. As well as kind of looking towards the future of what this game can really be when it's finally finished. Again, it's kind of a simple one, but it's really cool and I like it a lot. So if Vampire Survivors looks like your thing, go and check it out. If not, that's cool too. Thanks for watching Inside Gaming, and we'll catch you in the next video.